My name is Michael Clark. I'm an adventure sports photographer based out of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I travel all over the world shooting various adventure sports. I started out as a rock climbing photographer and then slowly branched out into all the other adventure sports, including mountain biking, big wave surfing, whitewater kayaking, base jumping. I mean, I've pretty much shot just about every adventure sport there is. We're here in Ouray, Colorado at the Ouray Ice Park, which is mecca for ice climbing. There's 200 routes in about a half mile. It's one of the most incredible places to climb ice anywhere in the world because you can access the ice so quickly and so easily. Typically, ice climbing, when you're not in an ice park, you hike for 2 or 3 hours to an ice climb that's maybe 100 feet tall, then you climb it, then you hike back out 2 or 3 hours. So you get one climb in each day. So that's why the ice park is so amazing, because you just rappel in on one thing, you scoot over 10 feet, climb again, scoot over another 10 feet, and you can do like close to 1,000 or 2,000 feet of climbing in one day. The athlete we're working with today is Dawn Glantz, who I've worked with several times before here in the ice park. She's become a good friend at this point, and she's one of the strongest female ice climbers on the planet. And you know, basically I can point at pretty much anything here in the park and she can climb it. All right, it's time to wrap in, my friend.
There are a lot of professional photographers out there, and as an ice climber I can say that there's not a lot of photographers that are then ice climbers, and Michael is unique in that way. He does ice climb, and so when we're looking at these objectives, he has a sense of what is safe, what is realistic, and also for what's unique to ice climbing, which makes it beautiful. So all those things together I think is really helpful that Michael is a climber. When we have a static line, I can just hang down as an anchor.
Okay.
That would be nice, you know, so
totally.
if I do that.
We've got 3, so whatever you want.
Yeah, let's do that and like just hang it.
So whenever I'm planning out the shots, you know, I'm definitely getting Dawn's input, because I don't want to just say, hey, let's do this. She might have better ideas.
Well, that's what I was saying, if we, like I was thinking about that one starting there, right?
Yeah.
Because I have, like I said, I have to get up to this sucker
Exactly,
somehow.
yeah.
So, and it looks super rad looking into the canyon or whatever way you want. So
there's a big ledge right there. It's kind of
yeah,
angled. I could tuck into there. That'd be a little on the close side, but that's a possibility for sure. You're good, go for it. She's climbed everything here, so she knows all the routes. The other thing is she's been photographed a lot as a professional athlete, so she knows what's going to look good. The reason I use strobes for ice climbing is to do something different. And the first time I tried it, I didn't really know if it would work or how it would look. But we got some spectacular images. The first time I did it was with Dawn. It's been a great partnership working with Dawn, and together we've created some incredible images that are quite a bit different than what you see out there normally.
I've been lucky. I've been able to work with a lot of professional photographers, and every photographer definitely has their own style. But one of the most important things when working with a photographer is that you can agree on the objective. You don't want to pick something that's so crazy hard that it's going to scare you to death, but at the same time you don't want something so easy that it's not going to be enjoyable to climb or shoot well. I have had enough experience working with photographers and ice climbing to know what my limits are and to know what's realistic. And there's no reason for a good photo to end poorly. And so I think one of the greatest things with working with Michael is that we have discussed the objectives. Him being an ice climber, he can understand where I'm coming from with some of my concerns, so that's worked out really well. So the result is that you do see this very natural side of myself in the climbing. Like the climbing doesn't look fake because it's 100% exactly in the moment, but Michael's able to capture that with all these different strobes in a very unique way.
In this case, we have a 60-pound cine stand from Kupo, and then we have a 40-pound, 12-foot boom from Kupo as well, called the Big Boom. So I mean, over 100 pounds just for one stand, and then you have to lash all that stuff down with climbing gear to make sure it's secure. So we've got a multitude of light stands, then you've got light modifiers, then you've got the strobes themselves, then you have extra batteries, then you have the camera gear, and all the climbing gear. Ropes, you know, those are like 12 pounds each for the static lines we're using. We have 3 of them. So it just starts adding up really quickly in terms of how much weight and how much gear you're going to be using just to get the one shot. And turn it towards the ice climb just a little bit, just rotate it. Whenever I work with strobes, I always have an assistant. because it just helps so much to have, you know, if I'm hanging off a rope down at the bottom of the canyon, I don't want to have to climb the rope all the way back up just to change the lighting. Aim it basically like 10 feet right above where she's at. Right there is good. Right there, right there. Thank you. So we use walkie-talkies to talk to between myself and the assistant, and I can have him articulate the light however it needs to be articulated. It just speeds things up. So we're just setting up a different climb here, because the other climb was in the sun. More than we thought it would be, and we thought it was supposed to be cloudy today, so we thought we'd set something up real quick so we can get rolling here, and we'll have two things set up and then we can start cranking it out. So right now what we're doing is we're wrapped into the opposite side of Dawn, who's on like a water ice 4, water ice 5 climb here. We're using the high sink heads. Since we need the power, we need it to blast all the way down in this 120 foot gorge. We switched to the high sink. I'm using a Nikon D850 with a 14 to 24 lens. We got it at full power on the pack with the high performance sports modifier, which really boosts the light. The beauty of this climb, as you can see, it's very chandelier-y, which means almost nobody's climbed this thing because it's all fresh ice. So it's not beat up like some of the other climbs are in the ice park here, which is why we chose this area, because it's very beautiful, fresh ice. And you'll see she's gonna knock down a fair bit of ice because she's got to clear some of that off to put screws in and stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that one was climbed very much. It's really full of chandeliers. It's like a whole stack of ice cubes. There's nothing solid until you bust through about this much of it.
So some of the things I'm looking for when I'm shooting ice climbing, I'm looking every time she swings the axe. I'm looking for how her feet are, you know, good technique. You know, her feet are slightly apart, shoulder width or a little bit more. I'm looking for when she kicks up and is looking at her feet. So when her body is crunched up, that's really usually when a good shot is. I think that what she just did was the shot. And so in between shots, I focus on her and then I just wait for that to happen and then I pop the shutter. You know, whenever I do action photography, I always like to get a few portraits because athletes always need portraits of themselves. And if a story comes up where somebody wants to do something on Dawn, they're gonna need portraits. And I just wanted to do like a 2-light portrait with a rim light and a main light so that it separates her from the background a little bit. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna do one more just for exposure. We just had a little accident. Our main light was up maybe 12 feet and the little wind came up and blew it over into the water. So the flash head was underwater for 5 or 6 seconds. As you can see, there's water and ice inside the flash head, so we turned on the fan to kind of dry it out. So it's still going strong. The ELB 1200 sets itself apart, not necessarily because of the high sink, but because of how weatherproof it is. As we saw earlier, we dumped a flash head in the river. Bonus round. Water is just oozing out of the bottom of the fan. I thought for sure that's toast. That thing's not working. We picked it up, we shook out the flash head because there's a bunch of slits for the fan on the back of the flash head, so there's water inside the flash head. It's still working totally fine, even though the water froze and there was ice in there too. What we have set up here is our main light. This is acting as a rim light. This one we feathered off, so this is a deep octa, which is one of my favorite light modifiers from Elinchrom. Tons of people use this. It's got some special sauce. It's one of their best softboxes easily. On the back you can see we have a grid on this smaller square softbox that's really collimating and directing the light so it's not spreading out and nailing the front of the lens. We have 2 ELB 1200 packs that we carry down here. They're so light with 2 heads that it was just easier to carry both down here. Close, I'm ready when you are. Go for it whenever you want. The other thing we did use, especially for the portraits, is the X-Rite color checker passport. This really allows me to dial in the color and make sure that I'm getting accurate skin tones. So go ahead and hold it so you're not blocking any colors again. Sorry, there you go. And a little higher.
Yeah, of course I think it's dangerous, but at the same time, it's the coolest thing I think I do. I mean, to walk up to in the middle of nowhere to find a frozen waterfall and to climb up that is just, everything was awesome this time around. So other than the fact that it had that chandelier layer, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better climb.
It went really well. You know, we got some stellar shots. I've just continued with all of the adventure sports, but especially ice climbing, to perfect and tweak the lighting to make different images than you would normally see. And one of the big things for me is I typically only use one flash head when I'm shooting climbing or a lot of these sports because I want it to look somewhat natural, but just give it some pop that wouldn't be there without a flash. After this, we've kind of shot out the ice park because we've shot just about everywhere. So it's time for us to take our skills we've learned here and take that into the backcountry, I think.